So this guy had been 3-betting me all day. So then I finally got dealt the 5-7 and 4-bet his ass. Oh, hey, it's Spencer Kress. This is the Poker Weekly Review. Hi guys, Spencer Kress coming to you from Ankeny, Iowa. Got some very exciting content this week. First and foremost, I'm excited to announce that every hand we go over today is going to be involving hands that we bluffed this week. So I'm really excited about that. It should be some good content. And later on in the episode, we're going to talk about the week, but I understand that some of you might not want to be in on that stuff, so we will put it off until later, and if you don't want to hear about it, you can turn it off. Before we hop in, I want to talk a little bit about the beer we're drinking today. Got a Blonde Fatale, nice 8.5% alcohol. Very nice. It's from a brewery here in Iowa. It'll get you nice and in the right place. So with that said, guys, let's take the duck, let's take the beer, and let's hop into some bluffs that we had this week. Alright guys, so this first hand comes to us from a 1-2 no limit cash game that we played early in the week. We look down at the King, Queen offsuit, and we'd like to make it $15. And we get a couple callers. Now, really quickly, we decided to go with a slightly bigger sizing with a slightly weaker hand than I normally would raise here with. This was a really, really obnoxiously good game, and we were getting a lot of loose action, and a lot of players that were just kind of turning their hands face up a lot. So I decided to go for value with this hand in kind of a weird, unconventional way. All right, 2 callers. Everybody else folds. We're going to see a flop. Flop. 7 of hearts. Deuce of clubs. 3 of hearts. We check. I'm going to talk about that on the turn. Get a bet of $20 and 1 fold. And now, turn card. 5 of hearts. Oh my god, I'm actually getting it to work now. This is like take number 7. Okay, so anyway, on the flop, I know it's kind of unconventional to go for a check here. The reasoning behind it was that seat 8 was playing very, very straightforward, so I expected him to only bet hands that basically had us beat that we didn't want to continue with. Seat 1 had some very strange tendencies. He was betting on the small side with a lot of his weak hands, betting bigger with a lot of the hands that were absolute bluffs, and then whenever he had a truly big hand, he was checking it back. So, like I said, normally I wouldn't check, and for that matter, normally I wouldn't check call with his hand. However, I really had a pretty decent idea that with his bets, that basically if I check to him, his actions on this street will let me know a lot about his hand, and furthermore, that once I call him, that I would have some opportunities to outplay him basically in the future. Now, the 5 of hearts is a pretty good card for our range, even though it doesn't look like it's that great. I had some prior knowledge that he wasn't going to be betting small in his flush draws, that a lot of the time he was going to bomb them. So when this heart comes down, I'm actually pretty excited because I'm relatively sure that he never has a flush. So with that in mind, we go ahead and bet. Oh, we do. $35 and get a call. Not that fast, but we did get a call. Now the river comes down an 8 of diamonds. He's got $115 back. And at this point, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and follow through with a bluff. So along those lines, we bet $200 and put him all in. And unfortunately, we pick up a pretty quick call. On the turn, he picks up top 2 pair. This is not the type of player that's going to fold that hand. So unfortunately, in this instance, we have a hand where in our first bluff of the series, we get picked off. Let's move on to another one. Alright guys, one more hand at 1-2, and then we're going to hop into one of the biggest bluffs I've ever pulled in my entire life. That was earlier this week in a 5-10 20 no limit game. So stick with me for this one, and then we're going to hop into a gigantic hand. So, in this hand, once again, 1-2 no limit. We get dealt the king-queen again. 2 limpers in early position. We go ahead and make it 15. I think that's fine over limpers. We've got a value hand, and we should go ahead and charge for it. Call from the small blind. Call from under the gun, and then call from the other limper. Now we get a flop of 10 of hearts, 9 of clubs, 4 of hearts. 2 overs and a gut shot, facing a $20 bet. We're going to go ahead and float this hand. And relatively small bet, too, so I like to see that. The turn we pick up a 7, and in the second here, we're going to see that the 2 players, the one that let out initially, check to us, and then the player in between check to us as well. Now, there's one thing this says to me on a draw-heavy board, and that is that these players, after calling a small bet as opposed to raising, and after betting out small into the field, and then checking as well, it basically is just screaming weakness here. So at this point, I'd like to take the opportunity to turn our hand into a bluff, into a semi-bluff at this point. I mean, obviously we can hit a jack for the nuts. King and queen are going to be strong outs as well. And so I think we should bet here, which is what we're going to go ahead and do. 55 into 122. Small blind calls us. And we pick up on the river an offsuit 8 and face a check. Now, what we have here is a continuation of the weakness, and I just really don't see a lot of jacks in particular, jacks or sixes really, in the small blinds range. I have a hard time knowing exactly what to put him on. Maybe something like a weak 10 out of the small blind. Even something like ace 9 maybe makes a lot of sense. The only thing I really know is that I'm at the absolute bottom of my range, and we're going to be betting this hand. So I choose $100 of the sizing, and let's see if maybe we can get one through on this one. Oh, and we do get the snap fold on this hand. Our second hand of bluffs, successful, and we pick up the pot with only a king high. Position is a great deal, and excellent to go ahead and win this hand. All right, let's move on to some 5, 10, 20 no limit action, and one of the biggest bluffs I've ever pulled in my entire life. All right, guys, this last hand is going to be coming to us from a very large 5, 10, 20 no limit game that I got to play in earlier this week. And for those of you that stick around for the weekly review, we'll talk a little bit about this game and why it's so special, and why in the world I was able to have $5,500 on the table in a poker game, which is way above my bankroll. But for now, let's just go through this hand and see one of the biggest bluffs I've ever made in my entire life. So we'll start by dealing out the cards. We pick up an ace-queen. The $20 straddle is mandatory. There's a $65 raise and a call from the button. At this point, we elect to 3-bet to $225. Now, we'll talk about it in some video down the road, but for now, let's just say that it's a good idea a lot of the time, especially in these short-handed, in this case, we were in a 5-handed game, to be 3-betting a lot of your big ace highs, a lot of your king queens, a lot of your blocker type hands. And like I said, at some point we'll discuss the theory of it, but for now, let's just say that we need to be doing it. We're going to see if we can get this to stop later, because this is take like number 7, and I know you guys don't care that much, but I do. Alright, so we're going to get a flop of 7-4-7, bet 190, get raised to $500. The turn, we're going to get a 5 of clubs, check, and then face a bet of $500. And we're going to pause there for a second to recap this action, and then we'll hit a river card and talk about our reactions to what's going on. So on the flop, like I said, we pick up 2 overs and a flush draw. It's really a pretty strong flop for our hand. The 190 might seem small as a sizing to a lot of people. The reason I picked this sizing is that in a lot of 3-bet pots, you want to be roughly betting about 50% of the pot. And there's some theoretical reasons for that. Like I said, that we'll also have to talk about at some point in a later episode, but once again, just take my advice for it for now, all right? Just take my advice for it. You want to be betting about half the pot, so that's what we do. When we make this bet, we're hoping to get called by hands like ace-jack, king-queen that might float us. You know, really, if like a hand like 8s calls us, a hand like 9s, we're not really concerned about it. And certainly if he's calling us with a hand like king-jack of spades, jack-10 of spades, any of that stuff, we don't want to give him extra reasons to fold those hands. You know, this is a good, decent spot where we might be able to pick up a stack from somebody. So with that in mind, we face the we make the $190 bet, and we face a raise to $500. In a lot of videos, I watch these videos too. A lot of people are going to tell you that, you know, in a lot of spots, you know, you can call, you can fold, you can raise. Sometimes all the options are viable. On the flop in this spot, when we bet $190 and face a raise to only $500, really there's only two options that we have. We can raise or we can call. Now, the first option that I looked at, to be honest with you, was raising. And I quickly kind of figured out that there was not a lot of merit to it. Here's why. The seat one in this hand is basically our fun player, all right? He likes to call, he likes to gamble, he likes to do lots of stuff. So he's liable at this point, you know, to maybe have slow played something like queens, slow played something like jacks, tens, and he's never going anywhere in these hands. So basically we just have an astronomical coin flip that we're going to be in, where, you know, it's going to be $6,500 in this pot, and $6,500 plus, and we're basically just going to flip a coin. I'm not really comfortable with that, and furthermore, he's going to have a lot of sevens in his range, and they're going to be snap calls for him, and they're going to bury us. So I think when we raise the flop, it actually tends to fold out a lot of his flush draws that we have dominated, while ensuring that he only calls us when we are pretty sizably beat. So we like to just check and call, or I'm sorry, to bet and call, rather than raise and play a ridiculously huge pot. Turn comes down to 5 of clubs. Now at this point, I decide to check again. Basically, I'm going to check my whole range here. There's no reason for me to lead out if I had aces. There's no reason if I somehow had 7x to deter him from bluffing at this point. So we always check 100% of our range. We face a relatively small bet of $500, and once again we have a dilemma as to whether or not to raise. And in this situation, I decided to go ahead and just take the $500. It looked like really a pretty defensive bet to me. So in my mind, once again, I'm very concerned that you know, that he can have something like King 10 of spades, King Jack of spades, be looking for a relatively cheap showdown, and he will check back a lot of his hands on the river if he happens to have a king high. So actually, in theory, we're going to end up winning this hand if he does have those types of hands. And if we improve to a flush, then we're just going to win a gigantic pot. So with all that in mind, let's go to the river. Let's kind of see what happens. So here we are on the river. I finally got this thing to work! I know you can't see it behind the scenes, but this was this shot in particular was a real pain in the ass. So we arrive on the river, King of clubs. Not exactly the card of our dreams. Now, there's $2,500 out there. We have about $2,000 left in our effective stack. And at this point, I start to consider my options. Whether or not I need to shut this hand down, whether I, you know, maybe want to take a shot at the pot for half pot, you know, try and represent ace king, something like that. And over the course of about the 20 seconds that I start to think about my options, we get kind of lucky. I told you earlier that the seat one was kind of the fun player. So while I'm mulling things over a little bit, seat one actually chimes up, looks at me, looks to see that I'm thinking, and looks at me directly and says, well, I have a full house, but go ahead and do whatever you want to do. Now, I can't tell you, some of you already know, but I can't tell you how good of news this is to hear him say this. Because the one thing that we know from seat one now is that, well, we know a couple things, but one in particular that we do know for sure is that the one hand he absolutely does not have is a full house. And the second thing that we can know is that he doesn't really want us to bet here. With that said, like I said, he's the fun player, and he likes to make big calls. So I really feel like this is kind of an all-or-nothing play. And it's been a long time since I put in, you know, any bet that was a bluff for more than like $600 or $700. And I get the feeling here that if we bet 1,100, we're probably going to find some calls, some steam calls with things like 9s, 10s, jacks, that he's just going to say, you know what, I guess you got me, I'm paying you. So really I felt our only course of action was to go ahead and bet what we did, and let's see what happens. Please play. So we go ahead and throw out the all in there, and our opponent folds face up, 3 of clubs, 3 of diamonds. we scoop a little $4,600 pot. We're going to hop into the weekly review. If you guys made it this far, please like and subscribe. You don't have to stick around for the weekly review, but I'm trying to work hard on things. Even brought the duck in, brought the beer in. If you could like and subscribe, it would really help me to, you know, I don't know. I just, you know, motivation's a good deal, and, you know, it really motivates me to know that there's some people out there learning and growing from this stuff. So like, subscribe, comment, do all that fun stuff. If you want to stick around for the weekly review, let's go ahead and do that. We're going to move a little bit slower now. If you just stayed around for this, thank you for staying around. Please like and subscribe. We'll see ya. Hello. Okay, we're back. Now, for all of you who stuck around this long, I'm not talking about poker anymore. I'm all done with that. If you're concerned with hands and not with just chilling out for a little bit, thank you for being here this long, but we're all done with talking about hands. I wanted to talk a little bit about my week, what I've been up to, drink some beers, and wrap up stuff. So we're here in Ankeny again. The weather today is, I think it was like 45 this morning. It was 50 degrees earlier today. We brought the plants inside. You can see that they're suffering a little bit. Got obviously the trees, the leaves are turning yellow and orange on us, so that's a good deal, I guess. But we're stuck in Iowa for another winter, it looks like. Probably take some trips later in the winter. I'm not great with cold weather, and I don't like being inside all the time. So at some point this winter we'll get out of here. But the plan originally was to be probably in California or Florida at this time this year. Unfortunately, Vegas this summer was a little bit more brutal on me than I thought it was going to be. So we don't get to make it until a little bit later. I don't know if I said okay. So I said that Vegas was brutal. Yeah. So California or Florida was the plan, but yeah, Vegas was brutal. Correct. Let's see, my week. A couple things I wanted to talk about for sure. The 5-10 20 no limit, which was completely and utterly ridiculous. Went to a Vikings game and hours and all that shit. So let's talk about hours first. Got to play 33 hours this week. Was pretty happy with that, especially with what we put into YouTube. That took a little bit of extra time. So it's happy to get in 33 hours. Almost all winning sessions, which is really, really nice. I had a great session in a 1-2 game, and it was pretty ridiculous, actually. I started off, and I grinded for like 6 hours, was up like $200. Get moved to this table, and wasn't expecting it to be that great, but wanted to put in a couple more hours. Sit down, and in like 20 minutes, my $200 is gone, right? So I'm like even after 6.5 hours. And then the hour after that, proceed to there's some like huge fish at the table. It's got like $1,000 in front of him. Proceed to play basically every hand with him, beat him in every hand, and then beat up on the rest of the table. Not lose a hand for an hour, and end up going on like a $1,700 run, which was absolutely phenomenal. So that was pretty cool. I posted one of the videos, and by the way, if you're here right now, part 2 of the hands that you should be folding did get put on Reddit, but the mods took it down. So if you want to look through my profile, it is there, and it's got some good content on there. So go ahead and look it up there. Shout out to me. Shout out to ProStrat. What else? The 5-10 20 no limit. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tuesday, I went down to go play some poker. Wasn't expecting anything that great. Showed up at like 4 p.m., and they have one of the most ridiculous games you will ever see in your life going. There are in this game, it's a regular schedule game that gets together, and there are 4 people in this game, at least 4 people. There's probably 3 people, okay. There's several millionaires in this game, but there's 3 people in this game at least that have a minimum of 8-figure bank accounts. So whatever, and they kind of play poker like that too. So this is the type of game where you just can't pass it up. It's a super high EV game. They don't fold anything. They don't care that they're not folding anything. They're all smart guys. They're all intelligent. They all do well in their fields. They know what's going on. They just like to gamble, and they don't really give a shit. I mean, they'll drink with you, they'll do all that fun stuff, and they don't really give a shit if you like whatever. They know they're probably going to lose, and they don't care. So I hop in this game. I made a couple bad plays in it, and it turned out that I got rewarded for both of them. I don't know if they were like, whatever. They were debatable. Some people were not happy with me. But I ended up doing really well in this game. I posted it somewhere else how much I won. But if you want to look through my profile, it'll say how much I won on there. But just good solid week to start off with. And then finished up the week just putting in some hours on Friday in a 2-5. I think I lost like $500. It was a relatively bad game. Maybe grindable for $30 an hour, but it didn't really ever put anything together in it. It took a couple coolers, lost with aces, one of the hands, and whatever. Finished up a small loser, but for the day, but huge winner for the week. Some of this other stuff I wanted to talk about. At the 5-10, we talked about hours. Let's talk about the Vikings game a little bit. First NFL pro game they got to go to this week. It was awesome. Really excited to see the Vikings' new stadium. If you get a chance, guys, go check it out. It is absolutely unbelievable. We got pretty decent seats. We were about 25 rows up in one of the end zones. I'm going to post some pictures. Picture. All right, anyway, if I can do also a picture-in-picture thing, videos of it, then I will too. The videos of it. Anyway, so check out Viking Stadium if you can, but don't wait until it's too cold out because then it'll really suck. I will definitely go to another NFL game. Great atmosphere. The beer was really expensive, but I didn't really care. And you just really can't beat live football, man. It's awesome. Fantasy team won this week. Really, really excited about that. That is an excellent deal. We've been getting absolutely dicked. I don't know, a couple weeks ago picked up Deshaun Watson when they were playing the Browns, I believe, and Deshaun Watson went up for 35 points. The only problem was about 15 minutes before game time, I decided that I couldn't play him, so I benched him and put in Cam Newton, who scored like 6 points, and Deshaun Watson would have won it for me with 35. I've had a lot of stuff like that, man. Whatever. Plug in LaShawn McCoy, and LaShawn McCoy had like some bad games that cost me a little bit. I don't know, whatever. But we finally eked out a W. The big players on the team for that one had Jason Witten. I know he had a huge game, and then Jaguars defense and Greg Sirloin for whatever. The kicker has been phenomenal. I picked him off wires and won some games for us. Also, Julio Jones we just traded for this week, and Julio Jones finally hitting the end zone this week, so excited about that. Let's see. I don't know if I have a whole lot else. More strategy to come this week. More beer drinking to come. I got a session tonight, 2-5. Sorry, 2-5 is tonight. Local casinos 2-5 goes on Wednesday and Friday, so I'm excited to put in a session and play some 2-5 tonight. Probably post some hands from that later and take good notes. I don't know if I have anything else this week, guys. It's been a good week. I'm hoping the next week goes well, too. Thank you for the subscribers. Thank you for you guys that have been supportive on Reddit. I've been trying to include as high level of comments as I can for you guys. I know there's a lot of people that are out there in the exact same place that I was, 2.5, 3 years ago, who are out there grinding every day, hitting the pavement, working hard, moving forward. I want to help you guys out with that. I know what that was like, and I can get you to the place where you want to be. You stay with me. Like I said, I've got a lot of tips to give out. You just hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let's spread the wealth a little bit, on that stuff. That's it, I guess. Yeah, 19 subscribers this week, including my mom. Shout out to Gretchen Kress. I don't know if you're watching this or not, Mom, but she was so excited to hear that this is one of the things we're working on now. So, with that said, I'm going to wrap up this week. You guys have a phenomenal week. I will talk to you after, it sounds like I have some friends coming into town for Halloween. So, after we go and kill some brain cells this weekend, I will see you guys next week. All right. Have a great week. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Say yeah.